Hey guys, so I am back live, different location, and as prepared as I can be. So welcome. I'm just gonna give a little bit of time for you to get your coffee, your tea, and just let me know. Hey, let me know if you can hear me. I am wearing a Bluetooth because guess what? I am at Starbucks. So we are sponsored today. Hi Santos, nice to see you. Welcome. And yes, we're back. We are back. We're doing some lives with Barbie, and we are continuing today on our love series. We're going to talk about relationships, how to deal with temptation, how we deal with loneliness. And today, my guest, I'm so excited. I actually met this guest last year, almost a year ago, at Thrive Conference. And one of my friends was up on stage dancing her little beautiful life off. And it was really cool because we sat next to them and to his church, and our churches were a little bit together. Well, our group was there. And it was so cool to see how they had like 40 people cheering on for my friend, and I really believe that we're really loud, so they helped out for us to win that day. And so, without further ado, let me introduce to you. Nice to see you too, Santos. Bobby Rodriguez. He will be with me here soon. Hopefully he gets in there. Let's get you up in here. Let's see. There you go. Hey.
How's it going, everybody?
Hi. 5 o'clock. Everyone's probably like in traffic, probably, right?
Yeah, today's my day off, so I don't have to be stuck in that traffic, especially in California.
Oh, what part of California are you in?
Northern California, about an hour north of San Francisco.
Oh, fun. That's fun. Well, I bet traffic is not fun at all, right?
No, not at all. I have to
You're
deal
just
with it
like,
every single day.
is it real that you have to like, you're stuck without moving for like a long time?
It depends. A lot of the times, yes, but it's basically because people don't know how to drive in California, so
Mm.
there's nothing to
Well,
look at. There's nothing to look at. Everybody just doesn't know how to drive.
oh, okay. Over here in Reno, I complain about having traffic, but it only takes us about 20 minutes to get anywhere.
Oh no, it
20
takes us
minutes.
like it takes us
Yeah.
20 minutes. It takes us probably 10 feet.
Oh no. I see. The Lord knows why I live in Nevada, in Reno, because that would really be testing my patience. I'd be like 10 minutes just stuck. I can't even imagine that. And I've gone to LA, I've gone to San Francisco, but I've never had to like sit there for like 10 minutes at all. So nice
No,
to
yeah,
see you.
LA's worse than us up here.
Oh wow, that's crazy. So you are an hour north of San Francisco, and so tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you single?
Yes, I'm single and proud of it.
Yeah.
Jesus has transformed my life ever since I broke up with my last ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Um, Single life is definitely where it's at right now.
Oh, nice. I have a question. Do you go to church? How involved are you in your church? And what church do you go to?
Yeah, I do go to church. I go every Sunday. My church is called Iglesia Cristiana Shalom Elohim.
Shalom Elohim.
And yeah,
Mhm.
I go Monday nights for theology.
Mhm.
My pastor actually holds a class. Wednesday nights we have Dia de Familia on Wednesday nights, and then depending on if I can make it on time, I go on Fridays as well just to hang out with my little brother and the youth, and also the worship team.
Oh, that's awesome. That sounds you're very active in your church. Sounds
I'm
like
definitely
it.
trying to be more active for sure, but yeah, more active than most, I guess you could say. The majority of the people.
Oh, that's good to know. Well, so tell us a little bit about your walk with the Lord, with Jesus.
So yeah,
And how old are you?
I'm 27.
Hold on, are you Latino?
Yes, definitely.
Do you have any kids?
No kids.
And you love Jesus?
Of course.
Ladies, I found him. He's single, Latino, old enough. I found him, guys. He's right there. DM him. He's right there, guys. Okay, so yeah, tell us. Sorry, I just had to say it because
Oh, it's all
I've been
good.
asking this, and guys are like, no. Well, at least my friends were like, we know him, but he doesn't love Jesus, or he has kids, or he's been married before. Have you been married before?
Never.
Okay. I think that there we
Thank
go.
God.
Then you're the answer. You're the answer to my single ladies out there. He's right there, ladies. So we were talking, and I asked you, tell me about a little bit about your background in relationships.
So my background in relationships, definitely before I came to Christ, was very rocky, unstable, never had a
Mhm.
good foundation.
Mhm.
Um, I would always rush things, and that doesn't get you anywhere. Once I met Jesus, and that wasn't that long ago, I'd say about a year and a half ago,
Mhm.
I got into a relationship. In my eyes, it was a Christian relationship because we were both Christian,
Mhm.
but um, I, God didn't see her for me, but I believe that He put her in my path to learn something from that
Mhm.
relationship. So it definitely changed me and it definitely transformed me for the better.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, my relationships prior to being Christian, um, very stagnant, very complacent. Definitely not worth being in. A lot of them I carried on for
Yeah.
longer periods of time than I should have.
Mm.
So,
So my question, like, what did you believe about love before Jesus? Like, how did that look like?
love before Jesus. Well, there's no such thing. To
Mm.
be honest,
Mhm.
I don't think you really know how to love a person because without Jesus, because love, like my pastor says, it's not a feeling, it's a choice. And
Mm.
so a lot of people mistake love to be a feeling, and it's the farthest thing from the truth.
Mm.
Feelings can only last so long, but that choice that you make to stay with that person or to love
Yeah.
that person will ultimately be number one. So
Yeah. That's really good.
definitely,
Love without Jesus is not love, right? You're like
exactly.
it doesn't exist, and it really is
No.
true. And so, um, what did you have you dealt with? How long have you been single now?
Um, I would say about 8 months now.
Yeah, and in those
About eight
8 months,
months.
have you dealt with loneliness?
Definitely, definitely. I'm an
Good.
extrovert, so yeah, I'm an extrovert, so I love being around people. I love having people close to me.
Hmm.
So I definitely have, especially at the beginning of our breakup, when we first broke up, it was pretty hard for me, but Jesus and my family and others definitely got me through it.
Yeah. How do you, well, you say like family and Jesus. What was something practical that you saw that like that helped you work through loneliness? Like that moment of like, oh, I feel alone. No one's around me in the romantic side of my life. But what was something practical that happened that you're all like, okay, this is helping me out?
Definitely talking to my pastor. He
Mm.
definitely was the light to my darkness when I was going through really rough times in my relationship and also outside of my relationship. Him and my family have always definitely been there for me, and I would recommend to anybody out there that's single to find someone that can help them get through, who has a stable relationship, and make sure that obviously God and Jesus are at the base of that relationship. He helped me definitely. Gave me some great Bible verses, and in time of needs, he prayed with me, prayed for me. And
Mm.
prayer is obviously powerful. And what I really did, what really, really helped, and I would recommend it to anybody, is what I did was I fasted. So I
Mm.
fasted for my own fast. I didn't tell anybody. I did it for 18 days. And
Mm.
that's when I really transformed. And that's when God really spoke to me and said, hey, you know what? Like, I need you to be single right now, and I need you to
Mm,
follow me in 100% of your life
yeah,
in order for me to put that right person in your life when it is time, because I needed
yeah.
to fix myself.
Mm.
So,
So, how did you feel like God was calling you to do that? And why do you think it was important?
well, I'm definitely, I don't like to be prideful. So
Hmm.
I guess you could say that, I have people that look up to me, especially my little brother.
Yeah.
And for me to set that example of what a leader is without needing to be, I guess you can say, you know, to be a true leader, I feel like you have to be able to be a leader on your own with God before you can do it with somebody else. Um,
Mm,
but that person definitely, once you are together and they are in Christ and they love Christ more than you
yeah.
first, then that can be a powerful relationship. But until that day comes, until God wants that for you, you have to be patient and you have to be
Mm,
willing to sacrifice time and effort into following Him because you're setting an example for people that are younger than you or have been through that same situation or still in that same situation.
yeah.
And you have to be the light, or you also have to be the rock that holds them
Hmm.
together.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. And that is so true. You have to be one with God. Like, you have to know who you are in God alone without
Yeah,
someone. Or else,
definitely.
and if not, I don't know if you fell into this, your identity becomes that other person, instead of it being with Christ and being in God. That is such a good one. And I think, yeah, that's really good. So, what is one of the greatest lessons you've learned from your past relationships?
I would have to say definitely what you just said. I mean, identity.
Hmm.
Your identity is defined on by who you follow and who you allow to dictate your life. And if it's not
Mm,
Jesus, then you're gonna become someone. You're gonna become, Jesus was perfect in everything that he ever did. He was excellent in everything he ever did. So if that's who you're looking up to, if that's who you're putting your time and effort into first, then everything else will follow. I believe I did the opposite. I put
mm,
my identity was determined by who I was so called loving when I was in
mm,
those relationships, and they definitely changed me. And I don't put the blame on them, but I definitely allowed it to happen where my identity was being changed more towards them and not towards God.
mm,
So I believe that's one thing. That's probably the biggest thing that I learned is to make sure that my identity comes from Him and not from someone who's not perfect.
mm. Yeah, that's really good. So, um, in the past, you said that there was you did like them, obviously, but in Christ, you just know love in a different way. Learning this new love that God's transformed you from. What do you believe now about having boundaries in a relationship?
Well, boundaries are definitely important. I mean, without boundaries, there's really nothing to hold yourself to.
Mhm.
Boundaries are something that I've put up now. Before I didn't have boundaries. One of the biggest boundaries that I had with my ex was that I wanted to let her know up front that this wasn't going to be anything sexual,
Mhm.
until God deemed it time to, put that wedding, uh, put the ring on it, So,
Yep.
I
Put the ring on
definitely,
it and you say I do.
exactly,
That's the key right there. You put the ring on it, and
exactly,
just because there's a ring doesn't mean no. You wait till I do. Yeah.
exactly,
Because
and
out of nowhere you're like, oh, I have the ring on it, so pretty much it's there. It's like no, it's the I do. It's a
right.
covenant. Like that's a big part too. That's a big part too.
No, you're
Yeah.
absolutely 100% correct. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better, definitely. But yeah, boundaries. I mean, now that I've been growing in the Lord, and He's been guiding me in all the information and wisdom that I've been receiving from my family, from my pastor, from others in my church, that their relationships are blossoming, or they have solid relationships. I take a lot of I'm like a sponge. I take a lot of good information in, and I try to use it on my life. Obviously, I don't try to imitate anybody. I try to be myself, but I
Yeah.
definitely know if something's working, I'm definitely going to want to take that advice. Um, and it's always, people that are firm in the Lord, and not ones that are rocky, because one, you can't become better if you're hanging out with people that are in the same position you are. You have to look towards people that are doing better than you in order for you to
Yeah.
grow. So,
That's really
definitely.
good. What are your thoughts on sexual purity? Getting to the harder ones now. I'm getting to the harder questions now. And any
Um,
encouragement you can give a young man, maybe on your testimony, because you shared it, just like any encouragement for a young man, tuning in that may be struggling with that or whatever, hey, this is like a moment that you can share what has worked with you, you know?
well, one thing I could tell you about sexual purity, and I'm going to be 100% honest,
Hmm.
I didn't know what it was until I became Christian. I didn't,
Hmm.
I was Catholic before, and yes, they tell you, you're supposed to wait till you get married, but no one really holds you accountable to that
Ooh,
in the
yes.
Catholic faith. So, my parents, uh, at the time that we were Catholic, I lived with a couple of my ex-girlfriends. We would get an apartment together, a house together, and I didn't know that boundary yet. I didn't know what sexual purity was, so I'd always, I crossed the line. But now that I became Christian, Jesus has put in my heart that there's something worth waiting for, you know
Wow.
and I can tell you, for all the men out there that are listening, or going to be listening, or going to be watching this in the future, being patient and waiting, you're not only respecting the woman, but you're respecting yourself and God, because we are a temple of the living God. And when we choose to be selfish and get those temporary, or that one moment of pleasure, what we're doing is we're creating our body to be dirty for Jesus Christ to be wanting to live in it. And when that happens, we feel disgusted in ourselves, especially if we've already came to Him and accepted Him as our Lord and Savior. We feel like, we're doing something wrong here, and He doesn't want us to feel like that. He wants us to feel loved and feel appreciated. So He tells us not to do it, not because it's not something that He didn't create, because He created it. I mean, sex is something that God created, but
Yeah.
before the right time and with the right person, and not just with anybody. So one thing that I could tell anybody out there listening is respect yourself, respect Jesus Christ, because He's living in you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's so true. It's having that honor and that respect, like what you're saying. It's so good. So, guys, pay attention. Girls too, because I know that it's a struggle on both ends. And it's you have a guy here, Bobby, has been walking with the Lord and been faithful and has seen the power. And you've shared with me, and it's evident. Like just even talking with you and your thoughts on how you even saw women before and how God has shown you who women are in reality, that's just encouraging for me to hear as well. And even like, what are your views now on women? Like how did you view them, and what did God reveal to you about women?
Well, I definitely can't lie to you, because my mom's watching us right now, so she'll hold me accountable to
Yeah,
anything I say.
I love your mom.
um,
Hi Sylvia, my mom's watching too. You guys are gonna be like best friends because at the end I want to share something so cool. Sylvia, good
but
to see you. I can't wait to see you in May. Let's keep going. But yeah, she's keeping
no,
you accountable. She's
she's
like, hey,
definitely
let's
gonna keep me
go.
accountable. She definitely will. one thing that the way that I viewed women before was almost like, and to this day, like, I'm not ashamed of what I used to be because it got me to where I'm at now. But the
Mm,
way that I viewed women before was more so like a toy, like a
mm,
trophy, like something that I was proud of because they were most of the time always good looking. And so
mm-hmm,
like I carried them on like a platform. Instead of looking at them like a human being, I would look at them as like I said, a trophy or
mm,
someone that I just wanted around because I wanted to fulfill my needs and not as a partner.
mm,
And I think that once I became Christian, because my mom never raised me like that, my father never raised me like that, but it
yeah.
was the choices that I made after I left them. And they'll tell you 100% that, after I left my house when I was younger, um, I started going down the wrong path
Mm,
and women have always been my weakness. They could tell you, anybody who knows me could tell you that.
mm,
So, I definitely rely heavily on my family and my pastor to hold me accountable to make sure that I'm not, falling back into the same temptations because women,
mm-hmm,
I've always seen them as more so like property and I've never laid hands on a woman. I've never disrespected them as far as calling them
mm-hmm,
names or
mm-hmm,
words that are degrading, but
mm-hmm.
I would disrespect them in other ways, as in like I would just use them for what I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
use them for.
Yeah,
And now it's a lot different.
yeah. And I think you're not alone because I think a lot of women, even I myself at a time, had a boyfriend where I was like, look, this is my boyfriend, look who it is. And it wasn't so much about like the person, but like having them, like you said, a trophy. It's like there's
Yeah.
another one on my wall. Great. And like it is like it's the reality. It's not only guys, like girls do that too. I think a lot of times girls do that too. It's like, look at my boyfriend, he's all of this and God's like, you're missing the point, first of all. But I
Yeah.
think God transforms us to see people and men and women as human beings and as their children. Most of all, like, I think that for me, one of the like transformations God did in my heart, it's like, hey, I love you as a child of mine, but I love them as a child of mine too. And what you're doing is not correct. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, good one.
100%.
Good
Yeah.
one, God. I was like, good one, God. You got me. You got me there. Breaking up right now. Leaving him at the altar. So it's like what can you say to God when he says stuff like that? So that's amazing. And it brings encouragement because I know a lot of the ladies, have been heartbroken, have gone out with guys or even girls like me or like you before Jesus or even in Jesus. And they're like, yeah, all guys are the same. But it's like, yes, human beings are sinful, but the good grace of God has gotten our hearts, and has transformed us for the better. Thank God for
Yeah.
the better, and
Oh yeah.
has given us a godly view, like you said, of like seeing them not like property, not seeing them like trophies, but seeing them as children of the Lord. So, that's awesome. That's so amazing. And when you were sharing your story the first time, I was just like, that is so amazing that God can transform your heart from that, because that's deep rooted, like it's not something you learn from your parents, but it's something that culture pushes. It's
Yeah.
like, even right now, like I'm so happy, and I'll hit this, and I know many people won't like it, but J-Lo's getting married again. And it's like, I pray and hope that she stays with A-Rod, and it is more than just, and I pray for them, but it's like, she's been married 4 times already, but there's something in there that needs to be filled. And, in any relationship, I was like, I didn't even know she was married 4 times until I was talking to like my sister yesterday. I was like, yeah, she's getting married. And I was like, again. And then she goes, yeah, I
Yeah.
think she's been married 4 times. I was like, that's crazy. But, we all pray and hope for the best. But the reality is there's a habit. Anyways, I'm getting off subject. I'm getting off subject. So now, Bobby, how do you deal with the temptation to sin? Since you've been all
Well,
recent, you're telling us about your journey. how do you deal right now with the temptation to sin?
Well, I can tell you, my mom will beat me if I don't. No, no, she's great. But no, the temptation to sin was super difficult coming into my Christian faith. It was one of the hardest things that I had to, and still have trouble with, obviously, because no one's perfect. But it's definitely gotten a lot better. And what I do, honestly, is I have people that hold me accountable. So
Mm.
one of the people that holds me accountable when I'm feeling those temptations is my pastor. I'll reach out to him and let him know, hey, I'm feeling this type of way. You know, I'm having these thoughts. Can you help me? You know, and I'll talk to my father, I'll talk to my mother, you know, and let them know that, hey, you know, um, do you guys see anything that I'm missing? You know, and
Mm.
they'll definitely let me know. They'll always be
Oh yeah.
100% honest with me. As much as they know that I don't like it, one thing I
Yeah.
could tell you about my parents is that they're definitely blunt, but they say it in a loving way. You know, it's discipline with
Yes.
love.
Yes.
But temptation has always been there for me, and you know, especially being who I am and who my family is in my church and what I'm trying to do for God, the devil is always going to be poking at me, trying to get me to fall. And one thing that I could tell you that has been there time and time again for me is Jesus Christ has definitely
Mm.
just gotten those thoughts and taken them out of my head. When
Mm.
I reach out to my pastor and he'll pray for me. You know,
Mm.
he'll let me know why I'm thinking those thoughts, and he'll let me know
Mm.
what I should be doing to change those thoughts into healthier thoughts, as in like motivational thoughts or thoughts that I can use to glorify God and not create myself to be thinking that way, because sin starts in your head and it
Yeah.
develops, and you know, and it becomes, you know, the act of sin becomes death. So you
Mm-hmm.
know, I always reference that back into my head, like, hey, do I really want to be thinking like this? Because I know what it's going to lead to if I keep
Yeah.
thinking this way. So
Mm.
um, temptation is a scary one, but if you have people that are firm in the Lord surrounding you and
Yeah.
holding you accountable, it's definitely something that you can overcome.
Yeah. And one thing that you said earlier too, like your identity in Christ, and it's so important. I know some people might be like, well, you need to know the word. Yes, know the word, but God gave us his bride to walk through trials and valleys for. Like it's a gift that we have. Like you're saying, I have accountability partners. It is so true. It's real. Like you have to be honest. Like I've been going to the gym, and let me tell you, when I've gone by myself, I don't go as hard. Like I go, like I just go halfway. I go 50%. But when I go with someone, rather it be my sister, a friend, um, that are keeping me accountable, there's just something right there where I go all out. Like I'm not gonna play
Yeah,
games. Like I have to go all out, and it's so important as well with like dealing with temptation, whatever it may be, rather it be sexual, rather it be anger, bitterness. Bitterness is one, ladies. If you're dealing with that, you need accountability and be open with someone. You have to be open with somebody. You need the people of God to continue walking in the way of the Lord. He calls us into community. He calls us to have that. And I just
yeah.
love your honesty of being like, hey, how hard was it the first time you shared with your pastor, like, I am struggling with this? Was it scary or was it easy for you? Like, tell me about it.
I think the first time um, was was easy because I was just becoming faithful to Jesus Christ, and I feel like when you're like a newborn baby, you're almost like you want to do everything for Jesus. You want to like go all
Yeah.
out. Like I read the whole Bible, you know,
Yeah.
in less than what I think 3 months. I read the whole Bible, and I was
Yeah.
just learning verses and telling them to my pastor and my mom and my dad. And, you know, at first it was easy, but then it started getting harder because then the devil started putting these thoughts into my head like, hey, like they might judge you, so don't tell them,
Mm.
you know, or like they might look at you different, so don't tell them, you know, and it started getting
Yeah.
harder and harder. But once I saw the Christian love, once I saw that Jesus was the one that was guiding them, the Holy Spirit was guiding them, I knew I had nothing to hide, because what I kept putting in my head is, why should I fear man who can't give
Mm.
me another day of my life? But I'm over here, God has seen everything. God knows everything. And I'm not fearing him who could give me another day, who could give me another hour. So then
Yeah.
that's when I totally flipped my life around and I said, hey, look, I don't have anything to hide to a man. I don't need to fear a man. So I'm going to go ahead
Mm.
and I'm going to be humble. I'm going to be vulnerable and tell my pastor and tell my mom and dad, what's going on, what I'm thinking, so that they can help me through it in all
Yeah.
honesty.
Yeah.
So,
And it takes a lot of faith to just have that. And it really does take like a lot of faith for you to be like, hey, I'm struggling with this. And then what you said is so true. Like at the beginning of even with your walk with the Lord, it's so true because the more you know, the more you're expected to do, right? You're like, you already know the word. Why are you struggling with this? It's like, no, I struggle with this and I am a whole year in, you know?
hey, no,
But
yeah,
that is
definitely.
so true. But you come to that. I needed that verse. It's like, why am I fearing man when God knows everything already? You know? And I think that's like what you said earlier too. It's in our mind. Like it starts right here. You know? So
Yeah.
that's so good. Thank you for sharing that. Is there any book recommendations that you have read that have helped you in your walk with the Lord?
There is one book that I have recently read, that my pastor actually handed to me, and it's called Kingdom Man. And that's a book that I would recommend to any single or non-single Christian man, because that
Mm.
book defines the man you should be and or you should become, whether you're single or not.
Mm-hmm.
That book was very inspiring. And it
Mm.
actually, the writer, his name's Tony Evans, Dr. Tony Evans, and he was actually
Okay.
yeah. So I'm sure you've heard of the name.
Yeah, I think
He
so.
is he's the Dallas Cowboys chaplain.
Okay.
So he has written books, and also he prays and does ministry for the Dallas Cowboys, which are my
Okay.
favorite football team. So I definitely was
Mm.
willing to read that
Mm.
book.
No, pues
But
ahí ya.
it was an awesome book.
We can cut this off now. I'm just kidding. I'm a Raiders fan.
What? That's fine as
Dallas.
long as you're not a Niner fan.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I get you. I get you. I get you. That's real. Okay, we're still friends. We're still friends. Okay. No, but okay. So you just said it's called Kingdom Man
Yeah.
by Tony Evans. What
Yes.
is one thing that you have that you can give like give me a hint of what a kingdom man looks like according to what you've read and what you're trying to become?
So one thing, that I've, you know, when I try to when I try to help someone from the youth, or try to help another fellow Christian around my age group, the first thing I tell them is they have to be rooted in the Lord,
Yeah.
first and foremost, for sure. And I would suggest, definitely serving, because once you serve and you know how to give, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know how to respect yourself and respect God first,
Mm-hmm.
that's when things start to change. I could tell you, when I started giving more of my time, more of my effort, more of my money, more of pretty much
Mm-hmm.
everything, is when, uh, the book tells you, how you're supposed to be that kingdom man for any relationship that you encounter, whether that be friendship, whether that be deep on a deeper level. And one thing that I really liked about it is that it tells you that God has to be first, in every
Mm.
relationship. And when I started doing that is when I saw relationships change. When I saw
Mm.
people that were hostile towards me started
Yeah.
becoming more loving, because I was representing the love of Jesus Christ in that relationship,
Mm-hmm.
whether that be and in any relationship,
Yeah.
which is something that really helped me, and is still helping me to this day, and will always help me to this day. Um, that I really like. Uh, once you understand that, I feel like God is amazing. He's all powerful, and He can do any transformation in your life. And the
Hmm.
transformation that He did with me was upside down. We're talking night and day. Anybody that knows me can tell you. You can
Yeah.
ask my mom. You can ask my pastor. You can ask anybody. Um, the transformation from God coming into my life, from my pastor being who he is, from my parents being who they are, um, the readings that I've been putting into my head. So the more knowledge, the more wisdom that you have, not just the Bible, but the Bible obviously being the number one.
Mm.
The knowledge is key, and that's something that my pastor preaches a lot. And I
Hmm.
feel like once you receive that wisdom, I can't say that the problems go away, that the temptations go away, but it gets easier to deal with them because you know what you're dealing with. You know what you're up against. You know that you're not
Yes.
up against the flesh. You're up against forces that are beyond flesh and blood.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that I really learned, and it's helped me through my journey.
That's so good. I think having what you just said at the forefront of your mind, of knowing it's like spiritual warfare, it's real,
Yeah,
and you need to
definitely.
be equipped, like you were saying, having that knowledge of the word of the Lord. It says, "My people perish for um,
Lack of knowledge.
lack of knowledge." It's like I was trying to translate it in my mind. I was like, for yeah, like I was like, lack of knowledge. That's the key right there. It's like they perish, they lose out on their blessings, and
Yeah.
so I want to thank you so much for your time, Bobby, and for on your day off, kind of working for the Lord and sharing His wisdom and your testimony. I just want to thank you, and I have one final question, and we'll finish off because this is my hand signal that we talked about.
Yeah.
um, why are you single right now?
So one of the reasons why I'm single is obviously patience. I'm waiting for the Lord to bring me somebody that I know that loves Him first. Because I was
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship where, you know, the devil's gonna come in every which way to make himself look beautiful. Whether
Mm,
you think that you could think that, oh, they're the most perfect person in the world for you, but God tells you otherwise. And if
mm,
they seem like they're rooted in the Lord, but they're not showing you by their actions, that's something that I took for granted. I just believed their word and was blinded by their beauty, so I
mm-hmm,
allowed the actions to not speak for themselves. I
mm-hmm.
basically let myself not notice them, and so being single now has really helped me grow and really helped me love myself and God more so I can love that next person. And I want to make sure that I am ready for that person because not only do I want to praise the Lord, but I want them to know that God has a
Mm-hmm.
plan for us, and
Yes.
whoever that person is, God put us together for a great plan and for a plan that I believe that will change lives. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for that person because I don't want someone who's not going to be able to help me in that aspect because
Mm-hmm.
my goal is to change lives, not only in my community, but further. Like, I'm talking, my
Mm-hmm.
dreams are huge right now. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not trying to let anybody who's not God fearing, who's God loving,
Mm-hmm.
um, get in the way of that because they're only stopping me from bringing more and more to His
Yeah.
kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, I'm gonna wait till He brings that person because
Mm-hmm.
I know it's gonna be powerful, and I know that it's gonna be amazing, and I know that my mom will probably tell me that she's the right one.
It'd be like, esa.
No, yeah,
The
definitely.
moms always know. The moms always know.
They do,
Um,
they do, they do.
they're wise. They're wise women. I love them. And I just know that God has that in store for you, and you just keep on keep on serving the Lord, Bobby. I know that like what God has called you to, He'll bring you through, and more than that, like your dreams will be propelled by whoever God has for you, you know. And all the
Yeah.
singles out there too, it's like having that patience and knowing yourself and doing what my friend here is doing, knowing God, following Him hard, serving Him hard, giving Him all He has, will put you in the right track to whoever God has, you know. All the singles out there. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing that.
Thank
I know
you.
you're of encouragement. I know many people will be like, what? God transformed his heart? If He transformed my heart, ladies and gentlemen, He can transform anyone's heart into one that loves God with everything and wants to serve them for the rest of their lives. And there is no man or woman that can get in the way of that, right?
Nope. I'm
So
pretty sure we both learned that the hard way.
yes, yes. And so, guys, I want to share this fun fact right before we leave. Bobby's 27 and I'm 27, and he was sharing how he came to the Lord, and he shared that because I asked him, who's one of your main encouragers? And he said his mom, and he shared his mom's story with me, and I am just so excited to like hopefully someday have her on and encourage young women. I'm asking you right now if you can, Sylvia, if you're watching, I will be contacting you soon because the story between your mom and my mom are so similar. Like she came to the Lord and she started serving, and then you know, with your dad and everything. Like I'm like, that's my story. You're sharing my story. Like that's exactly my story. And it's been an encouragement to have a fellow soldier in Christ that like understands, you know, it's like you get it. You understand, you've seen the power of Christ in your family. So
Yeah, definitely.
so that's a fun fact, guys. If you guys want the male Barbie version, he's right here, right there. I'm like, that's him right there, with a very similar testimony, you know. But God being faithful in all of it. So
I think
so
one thing
mhm.
that you should share too, real quick before we
Yeah.
get off, is um, our our talents, our
Oh
gift that God
yes,
gave us.
yes.
Um,
You can
I
share.
believe
You
that.
can go right
Okay,
ahead.
yeah, I'll
Go
go.
for it.
So a gift that God gave me that Barbie actually confirmed was also a gift that God has given to her is tongues. Not speaking in tongues, but the tongue. So being able to use our tongue, our speech, to manipulate, uh, to persuade, to sound beautiful, I guess you could say, is the term that a lot of
Hmm.
people use.
Yeah.
Um, and I could tell you, before I became Christian, I was using that for the wrong reasons, and it got me what I wanted temporarily, but
Hmm.
it never satisfied me, obviously, to the fullest extent that God can do it for me. So
Oh
I
yeah.
believe that, like, one thing that I learned is to use it for God's kingdom, and He'll
Hmm.
bless you in abundance. I mean, He's been
Oh
blessing
yeah.
me ever since I started using it for Him, is when I
Yes.
started seeing the blessings.
You see doors open for your life that you're
Oh,
just like,
yeah.
there's no way that I could have done this
Oh,
outside
yeah.
of
No,
this.
never.
And
Never.
I don't know about you, but for me, at the beginning of my walk with the Lord, it was tough to give that up. Like to lay it down, like, God, like, no, I can talk my way out of this. And it's like,
Oh,
lay it down, Barbie. Lay it down.
no.
And like you said, the moment that you do, he starts opening doors of ministry, opening doors of just like he gives you kingdom connections out of nowhere. You're just like, what?
100%. Yep.
So, but yeah, it's laying it down to God. And one reason you listen to us, guys, if you listen to this guy, like he's talking, and there might be someone next to him saying the same thing, but you listen to him, it's because it's a gift. It's not something that we're like, I have it, but it's just something God gives that, like, you're listening. People have been tuned in. You're listening because it's the gift of God and the grace of God pulling you into His presence and into knowing God, because that's what one of the things that I'm like, God, anything I say, anything. Ephesians 4:29, may no foul language come out of our mouth, but anything that's to build up and to encourage the hearers of those that are going to be listening, you know? It's like
Yeah.
anything that comes out of my mouth, may people be blessed, encouraged, built up, and just know Jesus more. Even Paul prayed and asked people to be like, you know what? Pray that there is grace in our speech, that when people listen, they are like coming towards Jesus. And And I definitely have been praying over that, over you, because you shared it, and I was like, you understand. I'm like, you get me.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I've been
I
praying that since I became Christian because that was
Yes.
one of my biggest hurdles was like you said, trying to get over that. So definitely.
Yeah. So thank you so much. My phone is about to die. But
Mine too.
guys, we are so happy that you joined in on us. It will be available. This interview will be available for 24 hours here on Instagram, and then later on, I will upload it to my YouTube channel and also on Facebook. Go ahead and go give Robbie, it's R underscore Bobby, right? 91.
Yeah. Hmm.
91. That's his Instagram handle, and you probably look him up. I'll put all his handles on the YouTube link and on the information and on Facebook, so you can go follow him, get to know him, ask him more questions if you have any more questions, and I'm sure he'll be glad to like share with you. And
Definitely. Yeah,
yeah,
anybody.
yeah. So we're just gonna log off, and also, sorry, before we log off, on Sunday, I have my friend, um, Sierra and Ethan. They're the future Fergusons. And I've had a lot of married people and single people giving their testimonies and sharing their story. But this one is actually engaged, and they're going to be married very soon. They have a ring on it, and they're going to wait till I say I do. So, yeah, I'm excited, and you'll be seeing them more often. And I hope you tune in. Are you going to tune in, Robbie or Bobby?
Definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, let's say bye. Bye, guys. See
Bye
you.
everybody.
Bye.